This is a Mega Gargant, an amazing looking miniature, but it costs $210. To make an army, you need 4. That's $840. I'm never gonna spend $840 on one army with 4 miniatures. This is green stuff. It costs roughly $10. And this is milliput. Cost me about $5. So let's see if we can turn this into 3. Okay, my friends, that intro was written 18 months ago. And a lot have happened since, because things took a deep, twisted and unexpected turn for the worse. And this video ended up being one of the most difficult ones I've ever made. So stick around to the end to hear the tale of 3 giants, learning new things, 60 hours of lost work, and then, in the end, a redemption arc. Oh, that's kul. So, where does one start? I guess the beginning? You already know the premise by now. The idea was to take 1 box of Gargants and turn it into 3 giants using green stuff and milliput. Because the new Giants kits is one of my favorites. It is so varied and you get a ton of extra bits. It really feels like a true old school Warhammer kit. You've got 6 arms, 4 different feet, 5 heads, and a ton of different weapons. So I thought to myself, I can probably split up the bits enough for me to only have to sculpt a few different body parts on each one of these giants. The first problem, and this is not the big one, I have never sculpted miniatures before. So the journey started with me calling friend and fellow YouTuber Christoph Eichhorn, or as he's known, Trovarian. He gave me a ton of great tips on how to sculpt the miniatures and which tools to use. On my end, I started planning out the minis, figuring out a good theme for the army and ideas for each one of these giants. All fine and dandy, right? But there's a massive issue in telling the rest of the story. Not that it's complicated, but there's this one thing. Maybe 5 small things. Maybe I should just continue. As I had a limited amount of body parts for each one of these giants, and I was eventually going to have to recreate some parts, I needed to figure out ways to make it as simple as possible for someone that's never sculpted before. So the first idea that I came up with was to make a big, fat, old Mega Gargant zombie pirate. Yeah. That's a good idea. Because then instead of having to sculpt a muscular belly and make some proportional body parts, I could just make a massive round belly and some big old hanging tits, which would make my life quite a lot easier. And one of the giants could be made quite easily, because one of them would get the main belly and legs and arms. So for that one, all I would need to do is the chest and make a peg leg. The last one, however, that one's gonna require time, because with the last one I would pretty much just have hands, head and feet. And to make this one dynamic, I would have to sculpt pretty much an entire body for a giant. But I'm up for the challenge. And you might ask yourself, Emil, why don't you show us the call with Trovarian? Or when you start building and sculpting the minis? Well, I'll get to that. So, with some tips from Trovarian, I started sketching out how tall the giants needed to be. I used steel wire to create the general shapes of the body and then added tin foil to fill out where the body shapes would be. And some Crayola model magic for the big belly of the giant. It was then time to start sculpting using milliput and green stuff. And immediately I encountered problem number 2. Because green stuff have a tendency of hardening. The first and main one is that most green stuff packages come shipped like this, with the 2 different epoxy parts touching each other, meaning that they've often started activating, making them really difficult to work with. And some of you might say, Emil, you should just buy them where they are separated already in the packaging. Well, my friends, let me tell you, after spending $80 buying more green stuff packages, it did not improve my situation a single bit. So, not only did I have the worst time of my life trying to sculpt with green stuff, but I had also cracked the budget with $80 more on green stuff that is pretty much unusable for me. And don't tell me to use warm water, because I did. It didn't work. I asked everyone I knew for more tips on how to work with it, and none of the sculptors that work full-time sculpting with green stuff had any tips that would help me in this situation. And you might think to yourself, Emil, you talked about milliput, use the milliput. I did, And I don't want to talk about it. The third problem, and it's still not that massive problem that we're gonna mention later in the video, is that when sculpting with these different epoxies, you can only work on one area at a time, and then it takes about 24 hours for it to fully harden. Because if you start working on another area and accidentally touch that first area, that shape is ruined and you have to rework it, and sometimes it's in this medium stage where you can't rework it because it's semi-hardened and you fucked it up. So I learned quickly that making this video is not gonna be doable in 5 days that I had originally thought. It is not gonna be possible. I am going to need weeks for every one of the figures. So after the first 60 hours of work, the project got put on hold. But I don't give up on fun projects this easy. Flash forward to about 6 months ago. We made a video where I spent about a week just working on fun projects that I was excited about. So I took one of those days and worked a little bit on the minis. Sculpting a gory foot, adding a little bit more to the bellies, adding more green stuff to the muscular giant, still fighting the problems with green stuff. And I didn't manage to make enough to justify an entire video on the giants. And it was still taking me too much time to actually start planning on making this video a real thing. 3 months later, Lucas and I were working on a different project, and we had ordered 2 completely new epoxies that we had never tried working with before. Epoxy and Tamiya putty. And at this time, we both saw the light. We've never worked with epoxies that are this easy to work with. The Tamiya putty is perfect to create smaller body parts and get sharp edges. It's easy to work with. And it's pretty much exactly what you expect green stuff to be. The only problem is that it's about twice as expensive and you get less material in the box. But in my opinion, those hours you save, you make up for it big time. And epoxy, it's pretty much exactly everything you want milliput to be. It's more like a clay that you can push around and work on big general areas to create the more general shapes of the mini. And at this point, everything is fine and dandy, right? Nothing can go wrong now. There is no more deep, dark twists to this video, right? And that brings us to modern times. My excitement was back on top because with these 2 epoxy clays, I could finally do the things that I wished that I could have done earlier. And I could actually start crafting and sculpting proper bits. And while I do that, let me talk about internet security and this week's sponsor, NordVPN. As someone making their living being online, I am constantly scared of bad actors, especially when using a public Wi-Fi while out traveling or visiting a cafe. With NordVPN, not only is my internet traffic and data safe, my IP address gets hidden from anyone who wants to access my data, which means that all of my data stays just as private as I want it to be. NordVPN is the market-leading VPN with over 5,000 first-class servers across the world. A great example of that is last year when Lucas and I were traveling to Australia. We could, with a simple click, access Swedish TV from across the world, changing our location virtually and still staying safe. Thankfully, this does not only work on your computer, you can also use it on your phone or your TV to keep all of your devices safe. And if you follow our link down below, nordvpn.com/squidmar, you'll get a massive discount and a bunch of extra months for free when you sign up for their 2-year plan. The best thing is, if you just want to try this out and then feel that you don't like it, you have a 30-day money-back guarantee, no questions asked. So stay safe out there and visit nordvpn.com/squidmar. So as the work on the first giant started nearing finished, I had to start writing the script for the video. But to do that properly, I needed to revisit all of the materials that we had recorded previously to know what I could include in the video. And that is where panic set in.
What's happening, Emil?
I've just had a little bit of time to calm down. Because this video, as you already know, probably by now, we've been working on it on and off for 18 months. There's probably about 60 hours work put into it, maybe even more. And we're just going through the hard drives. And pretty much everything that we recorded from the first half is just gone. The whole interview with Trovarian, all of the the sculpting parts of the first part, everything is gone. So what can you do?
Shit happens.
Shit happens. So we move on from here. Try to finish the rest of the bad boy in front of the camera, I guess. But it's been a journey, to say the least. So much emotions.
Make them smash the like button.
Beg for likes when you have the most anxiety in your day. Just do it. Like this video. Otherwise Lucas is gonna not give me cookies. And I have to repeat, we've never been ones to give up on an exciting project. So I kept working, because despite all the problems, despite the videos going to the shitter, I still had so much excitement for these giants. This is the Age of Sigmar army that I want to finish next. So to not take any focus from the videos that we were already working on, I started sculpting on the fat giant on my lunch break. Sculpting in all the missing parts, making sure that the gory parts looks gory, giving him pants, making the belly smooth and round, making sure that the giant fat zombie pirate looks like a giant fat zombie pirate. And the further I got on the giant, the more the hype kept growing. And after a bit, maybe I realized that it could be just as interesting to tell you this story about how sometimes we spend hours and hours, maybe even weeks working on things, and they end up being nothing. It's not the first time, and it probably won't be the last. You can see that despite all of these issues, we still have excitement for miniatures and the hobby and the stuff that we do for videos. So after a few weeks, he's finally finished, and I'm really, really proud of him. I don't have 3 finished giants, it's 1.5. And this is still the project that I'm most excited about. Maybe you guys want to see the remaining 2, I don't know. If you do, give me 12,000 likes and I'll start working on the next video. But now, it is time for a grand reveal. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, because I'm not gonna say I have, because it's been lots of up and downs. But massive thanks for sticking around. Don't forget to like the video. Thanks to all of our amazing patrons, and of course, this week's sponsor. Everyone out there, you're amazing. I'm really looking forward to this new year and making awesome hobby projects. Have a good day.